Silence don't happen, but I see you all the time. Beeps you. Silence don't happen,
Let's get it
but I
going.
see you
Project
all the
Mindset,
time.
episode 4. I got a lot of messages about entrepreneurship and just hearing from all kinds of people of, man, can you get somebody on that understands what it's like to balance multiple companies and fatherhood? I think there's a lot of young parents out there, and the reality is I had a hard time finding somebody. And then I realized that person was right in front of me. My good friend, my dude, Scott Afters. Welcome to this show,
Hey, man,
homie.
thank you for having me, dude.
Yeah.
It was awesome when you reached out. You know, I felt like I was about to be part of an exclusive club. You know
That's
what I mean?
it. This is super exclusive. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm really inspired to have you on the show and to dive in on some powerful questions. We know that the answers that we find are determined by the questions that we ask. So I spent some really good time thinking about some powerful questions for you.
Yeah.
And the first one, this is kind of funny, but this day and age, we tend to not know what people's real names are. Is your real name Scott Afters?
Yeah, it is. You know, I'm part German. My real name is Scott Nghiem.
Okay.
Afters was just one of those things where I took after it, very Instagram easy, friendly, and became what I was known for online. And you know, it works, and I'm really proud of the brand and what it is. So I don't mind, you know, taking it as my
That's it,
surname.
man. It's become pretty damn huge.
Yeah, it has. You know, it's built a really awesome platform for me to kind of get in touch with my audience, essentially. You know what I mean? And then now that I'm pursuing more of this entrepreneurial spirit, it just kind of comes along, and it's actually one of it's just like my resume. You know what I mean? It's something that I have under my belt that I'm really proud of, and it has its own kind of legacy, and you know, go on from there.
It truly is one of my favorite stories that I talk to people about, from just seeing a group of individuals who had a certain skill set that came a lot from maybe streetwear, and some decisions were made of, you know what, we need to change lanes, and to take the heart of streetwear, which is about collaborations, coming up with something new, and taking it to ice cream and still making it pop off like that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's done that. So, man, I just really acknowledge you guys for being innovative in an industry that is, I imagine, pretty damn competitive.
Especially now, it's like so competitive right now. So if you don't have like those defining kind of like stepping stones to get to that brand, you're really gonna just get lost in the sea. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And now you got Baskin Robbins biting your ish.
Yeah, Baskin Robbins, Cold Stone, everybody. You know, everybody wants to be a part of it.
That's awesome, dude. So one of the first questions that I had for you is, when you look at the skills that you have now, right? When in your life can you go back and pinpoint a time where you started to develop those skills that you use today? When do you think that was?
Man, the furthest I can remember is like starting out with the skill of sales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was like so helpful to me, because when I was starting out, it was literally me selling something. It was always me selling a product, me selling something, a car, me selling licorice. I have these like moments where I believe, like, because of my sales ability, it got me to a very far part of my life.
So you said licorice.
Yeah.
So wind it back. When was your first memory of like sales?
The deepest, like, people have asked me this, and the furthest I can remember back is like my parents purchasing me that kind of bulk bundle of licorice.
The Circle Red Vines, yeah.
I took that thing and I brought it to school, and something in me just told me, hey, if I sold this for $0.25 each, I could make a lot of money at that time.
What, do you know what grade you're in?
This is probably like third, fourth grade.
Fourth grade. Wow.
I had this little like.
So that's what, 11, 12?
Yeah.
If that.
It started earlier. But I believe that it came from an even more uncertainty, which was that I wasn't doing well in school.
Interesting. Wow.
And because I couldn't read well at second grade, because I couldn't do math as all the other kids in my grade, I don't know, maybe it was something inside me that just started looking for a different avenue, a different outlet, aside from, you know, getting in trouble.
So do you think I'm just curious, was a part of like, all right, I'm going to sell, because did you go back and show your parents the money that you had made from the red vines, or did you keep it to yourself? Like, I guess my question is, was it more about making yourself feel good or making your parents proud?
My parents were all about, they just came to America, obviously. They were all about just education. So
And you're first generation?
yeah, I was born here.
Okay, yeah.
And for them, they just saw like, if academics were good, you were good. But for me, I wasn't that. So I don't know. I was starting to sell, I guess, just to, hone on to my own skill trait, which I didn't even know I had at the time, on top of just some sort of different satisfaction. At that age, like, what the heck am I going to do with, $5 worth of quarters?
Right.
But I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do.
So it was a personal thing.
It is. It was totally personal. It
Yeah.
had nothing to do with anybody else in the world. But maybe it was my own self-reflecting, like, this is how I'm going to survive very early on already.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. And were your parents in sales?
You know what? They came over here and they kind of took any kind of job they could.
Yeah.
And they started out just like my dad, like mowing lawns and whatever we could do to make money. We ended up living in my grandma's house with, 4 or 5 other aunts and uncles. We had 1 bedroom to ourselves. And it was a family of 5 in 1 bedroom.
Wow.
One
so you
bed.
have 2 brothers and sisters?
I have an older brother and a younger sister, and then my parents. And I'm the middle child, which didn't make it any easier by any means. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I was always
5 of you sharing a bedroom.
In a bed,
in
shared a
Garden
bed in Westminster.
Wow.
Actually, we were originally in Long Beach, and then we went to Westminster. But it was just, it was just a hard grow up. You know what I mean? Like, you had to grow from nothing.
Yeah.
And I felt it. And I felt like we didn't have anything. And there was all these other kids at school with, nice backpacks, and they got to eat out at fast food all the time.
Right.
And I was just like, dude, like, what is this world? Like,
yeah.
Like for me, when I ate, let's say McDonald's for the first time, right? And my buddies drove me there and they ate it. I was eating that and I was like, dude, this is so good.
Wow.
I never had this before. But all these other kids were like, yeah, it's normal. It's an everyday thing. So in my mind, like, people ask me like, oh, what do I like to eat now? Like, I love to eat fast food because that was like a treat for me,
right.
you know what I mean? And now I can eat it. I can eat anything I want in the world. But I eat fast food because it feels like, oh, I'm just treating myself all the time now.
You remember that.
I remember it from back in the day.
That's amazing, dude. So you started off, it was a rough upbringing, 5 people sharing 1 bedroom.
Yep.
You start hustling, you start selling things. Anything you remember after the licorice?
You know what? The licorice was a defining moment, and then it kind of just fell off because I was just a kid at that point. You know what I mean? Adolescent. So I did get into a lot of trouble because you didn't have an outlook at that time.
Right.
There was no internet yet.
Right.
And you just played with your friends, and you can get in trouble very easily back then. It's mischief. You're a kid.
What was some of the worst trouble you got into as a young Asian Bart Simpson?
Just like, man, I hear the stories of like just my parents just telling me like, you're just a bad kid, like straight up. Like,
and how was your brother and sister? Were they good?
My brother was the one that was essentially taking care of us.
Okay.
My parents had to go work, you know what I mean? During the day.
How much older?
He's 10 years older than me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so big difference. We didn't have that much of a connection at the time.
Yeah.
We were just so far apart, you know what I mean?
And how many years different from your sister?
4 years.
Okay.
So we're very...
She's a girl.
She's a girl.
Okay.
So we're all very different in a sense.
You're all trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah, we all grew up in different generations almost
What kind of trouble are we talking about here? Young 14-year-old Scott. What was the trouble? Give us the goods.
Like just the,
it's been cleared from your record. It's all good.
Stealing kind of thing. Unfortunately, like breaking, entering, and just like just kids, things that kids get into. You know what I mean? And I remember back, and it was funny at the time, and you didn't really get in trouble, and you get a slap on the wrist. I remember like in my mind vividly, like in like 5th or 6th grade, I would get called to the principal's office or whatever it is, and everybody in the class would be like, ooh. And I was like so scared. So I walked out to that door, and I looked back. I'm like, I'm never coming back here because I just hated school and everything. And I thought I was going to get it taken away. I made it like so dramatic, and I left. And then I was walking across like the classroom where I had all glass. All the kids in my class just ran up to the glass and just watched me walk. And I was like, oh, I hate this place. Like, I'm never going to come back. You know what I mean?
Never coming back here ever.
Exactly. And then I was back
and then you're back
a couple days later. Like,
damn.
It was pretty funny.
That's funny, man. So how about early signs of like success then, right? Because your childhood, your upbringing, you're getting in trouble, you're trying to hustle, trying to figure out who you are. How about that first sign of like, damn, I'm doing good, whether it's sports or something academic or whatever it might be. Do you remember your first sign of like, you know what? I'm being successful.
I believe when I look back, so I was very heavily into the import scenes, like, really fixed up cars. And I went to buy a car out of state. Oh, not sorry, out of NorCal. It came back. I fixed it up, drove it around. Obviously, it was cool at the time. And then I sold it.
Was it like a Civic or
Yeah,
Integra?
it's a Honda Civic CRX.
Okay. Was it your first car?
It was not my first car.
Okay.
Yeah, my first car was a Camry. It's like
Token.
Token green Camry. Quintessential like Asian family car.
Safe. It's a smart purchase, Scott.
Yeah. Which I crashed, by the way. So I got that CRX, and I bought it. I sold it, and then I realized, whoa, like I just made $1,000.
Wow. How old are you?
16.
Interesting.
And it kind of blew my mind because obviously in high school I was already sucking still.
When you used it,
I was a D student, essentially. You know what I mean? Getting in trouble still, fights and all that good stuff. And I sold that, and then something in my mind just clicked, dude. It became like obsession. It became my hobby. And the internet
car
was just,
thing.
Yes, the internet was just prevailing at that time.
Okay.
So we had dial-up at that point now.
Yeah.
And very, very like slow DSL. And I remember back, I was thinking like, dude, I could do this. I could do this more.
Right.
So I went on a search, and every time I would buy and sell a car, I would learn more about the process, the system. And then I really started developing really strong skill set for sales in the sense of like in my mind, logically, there was a lot of logic going on that I never even knew it was happening until later on in life, that I was pretty much preparing myself to answer any concern the buyer had before they even came to have those concerns. You know what I mean? And
so you were realizing, we call that objection handling.
Yes.
Right? And we realize when in the art of sales, when you can start to be prepared for an objection, like, can you do it for less? Or this person said they could do this, or what about that? So you started to develop that natural ability to be prepared for the objections before they come up.
Yep. And then now that I've gone through so much time, I can look back and realize what happened. But it was actually kind of like a symphony. It was a beautiful symphony. They would come and look at it. I would tell them all these things. There would be obviously things wrong with the car, but I'd tell them things that, would make it okay already. Like, oh yeah, I changed this out already. Or I had that looked already.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm already giving you a discount because the tires are like this. To the point where at the end there I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, let me just buy it. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
I just kind of honed my craft for like a good 3-4 years.
How many cars did you sell in that period?
Oh, dude. I would say like hundreds. Like,
damn.
You're talking about 4 years of high school. 2 years of high school, just pounding through like my sophomore, junior, and senior year of just going through cars after cars.
No way.
After cars.
That many cars in 3 or 4 years?
My parents would be like, why is there so many cars on our driveway? Like, my neighbors would be leaving notes like, what's your deal? Like, street sweeping and like this, like shuffling all these cars.
Wow.
But I was just like highly addicted to it. And I was to the point where I was kind of like, my logic at the time was, I buy these cars, I take the parts off that I want from them, put it on my car, and I could just resell the car, and I still make a little bit of money. And it was just an easy way for me to fund my own hobby.
Wow.
So
and did you make good money doing it? Were you able to save up?
4 or 5 grand a month for a high school kid I was balling out of control. I don't even know how to spend it. At that point, what am I buying? Like a new Nokia phone?
Yeah, exactly. The little blue one.
Yeah, with the lights. Let me upgrade all the lights. Wow. So I had like a big bundle of money that I saved up. And
did your family know about that? Or did you kind of just keep it on the DL?
They didn't know how much money I was making.
Right.
They did know that I was up to something. And they knew that I wasn't good at school.
They're like, Scott, you're not driving that Camry anymore. What's going on, buddy?
They just knew that I wasn't good at school. So they kind of left me alone to kind of figure things out.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I'm like straight D student here. Like CD, dude. Like it was poor performance.
Wow. And so was there what was the next thing after that then, right? I imagine like you started to get good at selling cars. You do that throughout high school. And what was next? Did you go to college?
So the biggest pivotal point I can remember from that era was that I learned how to manufacture. And learning how to manufacture.
What were you manufacturing?
Automotive parts.
No way.
Yeah, I've learned, I guess, with that knack of sales that was under my belt at the time, I started understanding that if you can sit there and you can discover necessities that people need and solve that, you can become a very successful business person.
Wow.
So I saw voids in markets. I mean, that's always a great way to create a business. And when I saw a void in the market, which is automotive accessories that are not, $1,000 or not like $500 for just like a stainless steel muffler.
Right.
That's where I was like, dude, talking to myself, hey, I think I can make this cheaper. And I think
what was the first part that you made?
A muffler.
A muffler.
Yeah.
Wow. Because what was the process that You know, and this is all for people that were in that import tuner world, right? So you want an upgraded muffler
That
for
wasn't 500.
Wow. And so you would make, where would you get it made?
I'd make it in China.
You get it made in China.
And this was very, very early on. This is before Alibaba.
Wow,
This is before AliExpress. This was before like that online like trade was very common.
Okay.
So it took a lot. It kind of raveled my mind. I spent so much more time learning how to manufacture through the internet than anything else. I learned very basic like Chinese terms and things like that just to talk to them because they weren't even used to talking to just American people.
Interesting. So now what's the point? I'm just curious, right? Like what's the point of buying that muffler? Does it make your car louder or faster? Or?
It had to do with performance, aesthetics, you know, a lot of things that, you know, kind of ironically stuck with me throughout like the
that's
series
interesting,
of things.
dude.
But
so how many mufflers did you sell? And like how old were you when you started this muffler
this was
manufacturing
about
company?
17, 18.
Wow.
Started
crazy.
it. I pretty much manufactured it. I sold it online on forums. I shipped it. I did customer service.
Dude, you were a young hustler. You're the age of my son was the age. My son right now is the age that you were when you had this overseas manufacturing company, and this kid now has 300 car sales under his belt.
Yeah,
that's interesting, man. And I think that's really good for individuals to who are listening. It's like they might look at you right now and be like, "Damn, he's really killing it."
Yeah.
But if you go back into the history, it's like
this was an
homie
18,
has been killing it for
a
minute.
You know what I mean?
Wow, that's incredible.
This was a long process to get to where
that's
I am
awesome,
today,
dude.
And
So
just the beauty of that was that, I guess, learning how to do anything yourself.
Okay.
You know, you gotta get into that mindset that you can teach yourself anything in this world, especially nowadays. Back then it was much harder for me to do that, but nowadays you can teach yourself anything with the internet, with mentorships, with, you know, back then what it was the library is now the internet, you know what I mean? And it's so much easier to research, develop, and even outsource.
Right.
So if I was a young kid now than back then, I would probably be 10 times more successful.
That's interesting, dude. That's interesting. So, you know, get us caught up to speed now.
Mm-hmm.
So what other companies were you involved with and up until the point of, say, where you are now?
Yeah. I had a very successful real estate arm in my life.
Yeah.
That it was kind of like why we kind of linked up. I was very interested. We've always been really interested in real estate. And during the college years, I was kind of honing my craft on like figuring out like, dang, I think I could teach myself this. And then I think I can kind of, I don't want to say exploit my abilities to turn it into dollars.
Yeah.
And one of those things ended up being the ability to buy coal, polish it up really nicely, and then sell it to somebody.
Right.
Which ended up being the housing market.
Yeah.
So I ended up flipping a lot of homes.
How old were you when you did your first flip?
Probably 24, 25.
Wow.
Really small, like condo type of place. Saw an opportunity in the market and cleaned it up, fixed it up as if I were fixing up my car. And it kind of worked.
Right.
You know, people told me I was crazy because the market was down, but what I realized was that there's always a buyer.
Right.
I don't care what moment of recession or time it is.
Yeah.
There's always safe people out there buying.
What advice would you give to other young entrepreneurs about real estate with your experience?
Right.
Like, man, you got a lot of experience in the real estate game.
Yeah.
What would you give as advice to, you know, a young entrepreneur about the game?
For what I've gone through, I believe real estate is one of the industries that will make you wealthy, like filthy rich. Obviously, you know, like a lot of people that are very high up there play in the real estate world.
Right.
And that's where I eventually want to end up also. And that's great that I went through it. Now for the up and coming entrepreneur that's looking to get in the industry or even enter the industry, you gotta pretty much, there's no substitute for hard work.
Right.
You literally have to get down and dirty.
Yeah.
And the best way to learn anything is to go through it.
Right.
Like you can read all you want, but without actually doing any course of action, you'll never experience all the little tidbits that I had to go through. And even to this day, when I talk to people new in the industry and they think they know it all, but there's so much experience that you cannot buy, you cannot read online.
Yeah.
And those are things that you just have to get going through it, following somebody, mentoring, internship, something like that. That's why they have, that's why they created an internship, because somewhere in the world, somebody thought like, hey, experience is worth much more than education, essentially.
Man, that's powerful, dude. And I think it's like, It's like the difference of us talking about running a marathon or reading a book on being a marathon runner versus putting on the shoes, developing the training program, making the schedule, and running. Yeah. That's it.
Even reading in a book, hey, you are going to be exhausted. Yeah. Okay, and then actually running the marathon, like, wow, I know what it feels like. My heart is about to explode.
The things that you are going to experience going through it, you can't teach. I ran my first marathon in my early 20s, 26.2 miles, and I got up to 23 miles in my training here in OC. When I went up to Seattle, it was a rainstorm. Right. I was trained by a guy named Stu Middleman, who was Tony Robbins' personal trainer. Yeah. This dude ran from San Diego to New York 55 miles a day for 55 days straight. And then in the middle of our marathon in Seattle, dude got hypothermia and had to stop. I kept going. Probably around mile 24, I literally had this like out of body experience where I felt like I was on acid and I was one with the trees. Yeah. Dude.
Just start tripping out.
You can't get that in a book.
No, you know? Never.
There's certain things that you're just, I love what you said, man. You got to do the work.
Yeah, you got to go out and do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can read about it, you can study it, but no substitute.
Let me ask you this. This is kind of just a different subject, but it's still in alignment. Like, you ever talk to somebody and they're asking you questions about the game, whatever the game, whether real estate or ice cream or shoes or whatever, and they're asking you questions and you just know, you know what? This is kind of pointless. Yeah. Why? Because this person's not going to do the work. Yep. They're trying to analyze and get you just have to do the work. Yeah. You got to do the work.
I get it all the time, man. It's
like, I can tell you how to do it till I'm blue in the face, but bro, you got to do the work. And
even my experience or your experience or any other mentor or entrepreneur, their experiences are not going to get you where you want to be at. You're just going to be able to take tidbits of it and apply it to your own life.
That's it, man.
That's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, that's it. I got to shout out this young go-getter out there. He sells real estate. I met him in January, and he came to my house because there was some magazine that gave me an interview, and he posted it, and I didn't even know it was out. Right. Long story short, I talked this kid into dropping it off at my house at like 11 at night, all through social media. Yeah. And he's like, man, I'm going to kill it in real estate. He sent me this big, huge goal of what he was going to do. Right. And I kept following him because he kind of had an interest in being on our team, and he didn't do any deals for like the first 3 months. He told me this huge goal that he was going to do. Right. And then at like month 5, I just saw him on social media. I was like, damn, homie hasn't given up yet. Yeah. But I knew he hadn't sold anything. Yeah. You know, it might look like it on the on Instagram, but the MLS said something different. Yeah. Long story short, the dude 9 months in the game just got his first deal. And I want to shout this kid out because there is a 85% failure rate for everybody who gets into real estate that after 18 months, they're no longer in it. So just wanted to take a sec to shout out young Judah Peralta. Yeah. Great job, dude. Doing the work.
Good for him,
clapping for you, bro.
Yeah, that's not an easy task, man.
It's not. Most people give up.
That 8 or whatever 9 month journey for him must have been hell. Yeah. To be honest. And nobody was willing to give you a shot. Yeah. You know what I mean? When I think back about my journey, I didn't have any resources. Right. I didn't have any mentors. I barely have the internet. You know what I mean? It was a drive that you kind of have to do yourself. And you have to have it. Whatever it is now that you have resource, be very resourceful in a sense of like, look everywhere. Yeah. For any
It's available now more than ever.
It's a beautiful time to be an entrepreneur.
So that leads me to my next question. Without being humble, right? What are the qualities that make it possible for you to achieve at this level? So, but before I ask that question, actually, how many companies are you involved with now? What are those companies?
I have a solid 10 in my portfolio, one about to be sold. Yeah. So it'll be down to 9, but I'm also working on 2 new ones that might overrank kind of some of the things I'm working on right now. Yeah.
Anything that we should, what do you want the listeners to know about that you're up to? Which companies? Obviously, we know the big one, right?
Yeah, After's Ice Cream is a very big one. That's why I spend a lot of time focusing on it. But there's 2 categories that I'm going into that I'm very excited for, which is fitness, and technology.
I see you hanging out with Randall.
Yeah,
I see the arms getting bigger. If you hang out with Randall, do you automatically get stronger?
I feel stronger.
Damn. You know? See, because I would love to hang out with Randall, but I would just feel so weak. He lives right by me.
Yeah, I
I
know.
would just be like, man, I would just
feel-
feel bad about myself.
I feel smaller next to him, but I feel stronger, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. So
No,
just
but he's a
being
great guy,
around, just
too.
being around him makes you feel stronger.
Yeah, and you know
That's
what?
what's up.
That could-
Randall, hit me up, dude. I need help. I got dad bod coming in. I'm about to have baby number 4. Help
Oh,
me get
God.
strong, dude.
You know, and that's the beauty of, being in the circumstance of nowadays where, man, it's so easy to meet fellow entrepreneurs. And just having that circle is empowering.
Right.
Look for the right people to kind of empower you through the way.
So you got the fitness thing coming up.
And tech.
What else?
And tech now.
Okay.
I've always had a deep passion for tech. I used to program, ironically, like making like apps and things like that
Okay.
back in junior high.
Man.
And I didn't stick to it. I should have stuck to it because I could have been that guy, one of those Flappy
Instead,
Bird
you're all
guys.
freaking selling mufflers,
Yeah,
dude.
selling-
Get it together, Scott.
But I learned that I'd like to do that in the past, and I'm gonna revisit it now, and
Okay.
hopefully I can make a big splash in the industry with all the characteristics and skill traits that I've had in the past to use it in this future. Like I feel like I'm like an arsenal of tools now.
Right.
After 18 years.
Yeah.
And
You're
now
a
any
Jedi,
project I'm
dude.
looking at, I'm like, dude, I have so many things I could put towards this thing to make it unique. You make it different. You
Yeah.
make it, the highest chance of success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome, man. So ice cream,
Yeah.
tech,
Yeah.
fitness.
Yep.
I know you had a shoe brand. I didn't know this
I
until the
did.
last time we met,
Yeah.
but I was a fan of that brand, and that
Yeah.
was a brand that you sold. That was
Yeah.
Thoroughcraft.
Yeah, it was Thoroughcraft.
Yeah. Wow.
It's now TCG, and
Yep.
I believe it's still in Nordstrom's
Yeah.
to this day. So,
Anything else?
beauty space. I'm getting my feet wet
It's crazy
in the beauty
industry,
space.
dude.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And these are all categories that I have somewhat a liking to. This
Right.
is not just I'm in it to win it kind of
Yeah.
thing. I'm in it because I do enjoy the category.
Yep.
And I do it like in figuring out the psychology and the thought process behind that consumer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what kind of beauty are you talking about? Like women's makeup?
Women make
Yeah.
up that industry.
Man, that industry's crazy. As you know, my wife is in that industry,
know.
and she has some friends that have just like later. Some of them are just
Yeah.
bloggers. Some of them, I mean, the dollar amount of one of her friends' companies that was recently sold.
Yeah.
I'll tell you offline. It's insane.
It
dude.
is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm essentially going on after now. Like, I guess in the position that you get to, you don't really cloud your vision with so much monthly income. You
Right.
cloud your vision with like exit income.
Wow.
And that's a whole different mindset
Yeah.
now that I'm kind of preparing my brain for more often.
If you can get the Connect for, I think it's like a Korean face mask. I saw it online once, and it's like looks super gnarly when people are peeling it off. I can't find it anywhere. So
Yeah.
if you get that Connect, hook me up.
Yeah. And the beauty of it nowadays is like social media it's just such a strong
crazy.
launching platform
Yeah.
now.
So back to that question then, without being humble,
Yeah.
right? Like, what are those qualities that you have, dude, that make achievement at this level possible?
I think now, after reviewing all the things I've done in the past, and this is like great skill sets for anybody if they can kind of learn or obtain them. Sales is number one.
Sales.
Innovation is a very big one nowadays.
Yeah.
Branding, huge.
Sales, innovation, branding.
Strategic. You know, being very strategic is very helpful now.
Right.
And I think people forget about that often.
Yeah.
You know, they get too caught up with the limelight and the surrealness of a brand and whatever it is, but there has to be a lot of backbone to it.
When you say strategic, what I really hear also is like a true focus. Like, don't just like say you're doing this shit on
Yes.
Instagram. Like, strategize.
Yes.
Sit down and look at something and truly say what needs to happen in
Yeah.
order to do this.
Yeah, and people come up with a 1 month plan. That's not the way you
Yeah.
should start. You know what I mean? Like you should have a real plan to kind of safe net yourself, to prepare yourself for what you know is going to happen already.
Yeah.
You already know you're going to run into production problems. You already know you're going to run into like, how am I going to market this? You should work on those things before you're like, hey, I'm creating a brand. It's about to launch. Like, I don't know any about the back end.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of homework to do, essentially. Maybe that's why I substituted from school to this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This worked out for me, you know?
You're a great student. You're a great student.
Yeah.
In case your parents don't know that, Scott
Yeah.
turned out to be a great student.
There's another story to that. I actually ended up becoming a really good student.
Awesome.
Yeah, like my last semester at Cal State Fullerton, I really knocked it out of the park, straight A's. And I don't know why I did it or why I thrived so hard for it, But to me, I think I was proving a point to myself and to my parents that, you know what? I could have done it, but I just wasn't interested in it. And that was the really defining moment where I was like, I'm going to get straight A's just to show you guys that I can do it.
That's
but
powerful.
I didn't choose to.
That's powerful, dude. That's awesome.
And that's pretty much the power of the mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can pretty much focus on something, and when you really focus on it, you can literally accomplish anything.
Well, the interesting thing is college was probably your choice, right? Whereas in school, your mindset was, as a kid, I have to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And mind you, like when I did college, I blew almost all the money I made in high school paying for college.
Wow.
So it was like a reverse trip. And then I ended up getting, ironically, I ended up getting a regular job. I went through a regular job process. You know, I worked at the Gap. I worked at the fair. You know, I made license plates for, you know, cars and I sold knives.
Wow.
I worked at Best Buy.
Wow.
Like, I gave that world a try.
Yeah.
Because without doing it, I would have never known if that was for me or not.
Yeah.
And when I did it, I definitely knew this is not for you,
me,
man. Like,
yeah,
you suck at that stuff.
That's awesome.
You're really
dude.
good at selling stuff,
Yeah.
but still,
This is not for you.
Yeah, it's just not for me.
That's interesting, man, because I've been in sales really since I was 12, 13 years old as well.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I had sponsors for skateboarding, and I would sell all my old wheels. I'd sell my boards. When Alana and I first started going to school in 8th grade, she'll tell you, like, after school, there'd be a whole crowd of, like, 8 people surrounding me, and I was selling them stickers and shirts and blah, blah, blah. And then I got my first job. Was in Cincinnati. I was a dishwasher, and I purposely got fired.
Yeah.
After my first check, I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
I got like $80,
Right,
and I'm like, I make this selling like 3 or 4 boards.
Yeah.
And I would just like, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave these dishes.
Maybe you know what? Maybe that's like a following theme, because on one of my first jobs working at the mall, I actually purposely got fired.
Yeah,
also.
bro.
I just lowered my hours to like nothing.
Oh, dude, that's
and they were
so
like, "Why are
funny.
you even here anymore, dude?" On top of that, they gave me a raise, and I was so stoked for that raise. You know what I mean? I worked hard for it. It was 24 cents.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, I could have
This is a
sold
joke.
a muffler and made $75 instead.
Yeah, man, that's funny, dude.
It's crazy.
So we got a new thing happening for you in your life as of 5 months ago. As if you're not busy enough, throw that into the mix. What's the new thing in Scott's life?
Family, man.
Damn.
It's been amazing. It's I don't even know how to describe it. You know, I wasn't prepared for it by any means.
Did you plan it?
It was planned.
Yeah, you and your lady. How long have you and your lady been together?
15 plus years.
That's
man.
cool, man.
She's
That's
been
awesome.
through me through like cup-o-noodle days, to like single twin bed together. Just
What's
us.
her name?
Lori.
Shout out to Lori for sticking with Scott.
Yeah, she's probably more of the mastermind than me right now. It's just like,
that's cool,
this guy
man.
needs to get to work, you know what I mean?
So I want to ask you some questions about that too. For
Yeah.
you know, how do you keep a relationship going that long? But let's shift to that, man. Like, you've been with your lady for 15 years through
more than
15 years
Yeah.
through thick and thin. Why do you think you guys worked?
There was times and moments where we were looking at the relationship, and yes, I spent a lot of work and time on work itself, trying to figure out a lot of things. Obviously, you're just like a plant in the ground. You're just trying to grow and kind of seed it with, you know, water and all this good stuff. And she was on the sideline watching me, and I can only understand, or I can barely understand probably, how it was just watching me spend so much time on this without, you know, the relationship.
Yeah.
And there was moments where she'd be like, "What are you doing?" Like, you know, man. And I had to really like let her know that this is my future. This is my path.
Right.
And I have to work extremely hard if I want this future. And if you don't understand that, it's not going to work for sure.
Yeah.
Because I have to dedicate so much of my time and life to this, and there has to be a mutual understanding. You know what I mean? I need you to be my support system. I don't need you to be another person to tell me that you're not going to make it. You know what I mean?
So you communicated up front,
Definitely.
right? That's one thing you
very
communicated
upfront.
Up front, yeah.
And she understood. She took it in. And you know what? She's not somebody that comes from a very wealthy family either.
Right.
So she understood that I had to make it somehow. And she had to make it. You know, she's even a successful business owner now too.
Wow.
So
power couple.
And we decided to have a family too. So that was like the next generation of our life.
You guys got married?
We got married.
How long did you get married?
Probably 2 years ago.
That's cool.
You know, and people always like, "Oh, why didn't you get married earlier?" And in my mind, I was thinking, and I tell people, you know, man, we could have got married earlier, but we wouldn't have everything we wanted.
Yeah.
And there was no reason to put that additional stress and strain on our relationship when we didn't need to.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 31 or 32, around there.
I think people our age are getting married later.
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
30.
there's a lot more.
I was 30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people want to accomplish more now. They want to feel security for themselves.
That's good.
I wanted to make sure that I could take care of us.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not worry about anything. And
Yeah.
at that time, it was very appropriate. And you know what? Even at that point, we got our dream wedding.
Right.
We did everything we wanted to do.
That's awesome.
And it felt right because we
Yeah.
were ready to, we knew that marriage was going to be the gateway into a family.
So you're like, all right, it's time. And how long before you actually found out you guys were having a baby? Like how do I say this? How much time did you say, okay, we're having a baby, and then by the time, the next you know, you're pregnant?
It was probably within the year.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, when we same kind of business analogies. When you focus on something,
right?
When you actually put effort towards
Right.
it, that wasn't that hard.
Do the work.
That part was not hard, and you know, you can actually make anything come to life. You know what I mean? And that's what happened to us. And you know, when we planned out really well, it just makes everything so much easier. You know what I mean? People ask me all the time, like, "Hey, were you worried? Are you scared? Like, you're gonna become a dad?" In my mind, I was thinking, this is probably just gonna be like another business, like a new. Unfortunately, it's gonna be like another business.
Little kid comes out, you got a whole graph, you know.
You know, there's no way to teach it,
right?
Except going through it. Of course, I read a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
I went through a lot of things.
What to expect when you're expecting?
Yeah,
while you're eating
there
ice
would
cream.
be no substitute for actually going through it.
That's it, dude.
And when we went through it, I went into it with a very entrepreneur mindset, and it actually helped out a lot.
Yeah.
It made a lot of systems. It made it like almost like systematic how we could get things going for us and making it work with the baby situation. You know what I mean? And our lifestyle.
Right.
And aside from that, you know, there's stuff that you can't control, which is the baby, which is great and fine.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of things you can't control, and people don't want to put the time out to control it.
So what are some of your secrets to keeping it all balanced? You got multiple businesses.
Yep.
You got a 5-month-old,
Yep.
right? You got marriage.
Yep.
So how do you stay balanced?
I think there is a time for reflection in a sense of like you have to sit down and prioritize. And I go through this all the time, and sometimes I go through this with my partners that are like going through like that heavy congestion time. You know, every entrepreneur feels this. You have to sit back, relax, and think about, okay, everything's gonna be okay first, and then you start prioritizing. Okay, these are the things I have to work on. These are the things that are immediate, and let me put these in a list. And then whether it be a physical list or a mental list, this list is gonna be like your pathway into the next 6 months, let's say. You know what I mean? And for me, it ended up being, you know, my baby, my family, and then business, and then, you know, mixture with friends.
Yeah.
I've gotten really good at it where I can mix the two, like offsetting together, but some people might have to prioritize more than others. But there is really, like, even back when I was in college, in high school, I did the same thing in my mind mentally where I was giving up a lot of friendships, a lot of partying time for this business culture that I was trying to get involved in. You know what I mean?
So prioritizing and sacrifice.
Yep, and juggling, dude. Juggling. Yeah. If you're gonna become a master juggler, multitasker at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And that is a skill trait that every entrepreneur should have because you're gonna be doing everything. You should be doing everything. If you're not doing everything, and by everything I don't mean like physically doing everything, but at least in your mind you're allocating, you know, work out or whatever it takes to just set up this structure system, because the system is what's gonna make you put yourself in that situation where you can walk away monetarily,
right,
and then work on something else while it's still running, and then you can kind of go back and forth, check up, and then really shine at what you're really good at, because then you'll review like, what am I really good at here, and let me do that part. And your business partner or whoever is helping you run this business, because I'm not running 10 by myself, obviously, and then you put that on the table, and now you have the respect level of like, hey, you do that, I do this really good, we have understanding, let's move forward now. There's no reason to go back and be like, no, I do this, you do that.
I get it.
You know, move forward.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Boom.
And it is like working just in the 10. Obviously, me and my wife have a great working relationship in the sense of like how we work together with the family and the baby and the job schedules and stuff like that. But growing up and going through the process alone for so long and then having partners, now that I'm in a position that I'm actually spending more time choosing my partners carefully than actually choosing the businesses I'm working on. Because that person is going to be your lifeline in that business. And if they don't perform, you don't perform. So I spend 10 times more time figuring out who the right people to work with are. You know what I mean? Even doing this cast here.
Right.
Am I going to spend my time doing this cast, or am I going to spend time talking to this other guy? But your message, your questions, your answer, these answers are going to be more beneficial to the people that are listening. You know
Absolutely. What I mean? So I'm talking about we got all this stuff going on. There's movement, there's fatherhood, there's marriage, there's entrepreneurship. What motivates you and drives you now? What gets you out of bed?
Dude, the biggest motivation right now has got to be my daughter. She just makes me want to work so hard.
That's awesome, man.
And
what's her name?
Harper.
And gotta buy her an island. That's the only way out for us, dude.
I feel like, in my the way I was raised, I didn't have everything. And it's weird because you think like, oh, I want to put my kids through everything, like the tough life, you know what I mean? But in reality, dude, you just want to give them the best platform to do whatever they want to do with their life. And that's what I feel like. I see her at night and she's sleeping and it's so cute. And it's like, man, I'm going to work so hard for you and our family. That's pretty much the end goal for me right here.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I have that same battle as a parent because I wonder, like, are my kids going to have the same fight that I have today?
Right.
Because I have that fight because of how I grew up.
Yeah, exactly.
And my attorney, actually, her name's Sahar. Her father gave me some incredible coaching because I was asking him some questions. And he's like, you know what? You want to provide your children with all the things they could possibly need, maybe not want, but give them everything that they could need so that they don't, starting from love, so that they don't go out and have to get it somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's like just building that really foundation really strong for them.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's cool, dude. So I got some theme questions, and these are all things that have specific themes. I came up with some themes, and this is the first time I've done this. So I got some themes in mind, and I created questions around those themes. And the first theme is around playing big and being a champion. And so my question for you is it starts off with that everybody wants to win, right? But very few people reach the pinnacle of their chosen career, but some do. What do you think the difference is between those that achieve that pinnacle and those who don't?
Drive, man. Drive has got to be one of them, because it's just, you're going to get beat down so many times. You're going to go through so many obstacles. And if you just can't get back up from them over and over, you're not going to be able to make that peak or the pinnacle of your career. It's even for me, like some of the things I've gone through, I felt like, man, this is it for me. Like, I'm done. Yeah. And that one night I would just be sitting there, and I remember like there would be like production problems, or like I just have tons of money out, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is my life like? And it's that moment of like, am I going to buckle down, or am I just going to give up? Right. And you really need to sit there and focus and be like, dude, I got myself into this. I need to get myself out of it, and start creating that game plan to achieve greater the next day. You know what I mean? The next day is a whole new day. Let me just flesh out everything. Let me actually work on what the real problem is, get past that, and then let me move forward. Wow, interesting. So you say drive, and then what I also heard from you in that drive, though, is I think like part of developing drive is turning it off, like stepping away from it for a second so you could figure out what the problem is. Yeah. I think it's very important for people to get what you just said. That was powerful. It's just people like fall too into the disruption or whatever happened, and they get stuck in it, and that becomes their lives. And when it becomes your life, it becomes an issue. And then when you have that issue, you just can't think about, you can't do anything. And it's just like it's like a roadblock. Well, you can't solve the problem with the same kind of thinking that got you in it. No. That's why you have to step back, reevaluate, but actually wake up the next day and I have to do this. Yeah, and that's awesome, man. I always like to think that in order for me to achieve a goal, I have to match the energy of that goal. That's to me that's what it's about. And when we deal with the problem, so many times the problem gets bigger. Yeah. Why? Because our energy is going lower and lower. And I'm like, dude, I need to go listen to my favorite song. Yeah. I need to FaceTime my daughter. I need to skate. I need to do something. Yeah. Just get your mind off of it for that moment. So let's talk about that then, because my next question is around the theme of spirituality and quiet time. So what does spirituality mean to you, and what do you do to tap into your inner spiritual being? I've always used cars as kind of like the gateway drug, almost, to a sense there. So your quiet time's loud. Yeah, my quiet time is loud, but it's very serene. It's very surreal for me, because then when I'm driving the nice fancy cars or whatever the moment at the time is my dream car, I'm sitting there, I'm realizing, dude, like, I've made it. Whatever position in life I am right now, I've got the goal that
That's
you know, that
awesome.
little kid that
Right.
was pushing so hard to get this, I've got it. So I've always like monetized my goals and values with a physical thing, so I can actually touch it, I can feel
Yeah,
it.
that's
and
how
when
you
I'm
meditate.
And when I'm cruising down PCH, you know what I
Right.
mean, staring at, you know, perfect California weather
Yeah.
and reevaluating my life, my family, my daughter, my wife, and my possessions and everything, I feel like, dude, I have everything. Like, there's nothing that can stop me right now.
Right.
I should be able to overcome any series of challenges
Yeah.
that I've did in the past, and now I should be able to move forward. And I don't think people do that very often. We live in such a fast-paced life that it's kind of like, dude, just chill out, stop for a second,
Right.
like, just sit and think about, you know, what really got you here or whatever is gonna get you there.
Yeah.
And remember that, you know, you can work to achieve to anything. Because I always think back, like, everybody always talks about, I don't have enough time for things, right?
Right.
And then I think to it, do you wake up at 7 a.m. or do you wake up at 5 a.m.? Do you
Exactly.
work till 4 a.m.?
Right.
How do you tell me you don't have time? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
that's
in my
good.
mind, it's just like, don't ever tell me that, because there's always time.
There's always time.
You can
man.
figure it out. You're a big boy, you know, you're a big girl,
Yeah.
whatever the case is.
That's awesome, dude. That's
Yeah.
powerful. The next theme, and when I look at everything you have going on, I feel like this resonated with me a lot, because I think to have the theme of a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And so there's a popular saying in business that a good leader needs to get excellent people on the bus, in the right seat, moved in the same direction, and enjoying the same song.
Right.
So can you think of a time, or can you tell me a story when you were part of a team
Right.
where everyone was in the right direction, doing the right things,
Right.
working together, and enjoying it?
This is like something that I didn't even know back then, but I've become really good at, in a sense. And this
Yeah.
essentially one of my skill traits now is just like connecting the dots. And by what I mean by dots is like, there's a dot, that's the business.
Right.
And then there's like branches out to it. And when I connect these dots, it makes everything work so much better, you know? So in even these newer business I'm doing right now, even the start of it, when I'm connecting the right people together and the right plan together and throwing in these ideas,
Yeah.
it just feels like, dude, this is gonna be so good. And everybody's on the same kind of hype train, because they're like, wow, like this makes so much sense.
Right.
And I don't know if it has to tie in with the sales and
Yeah.
then like all the strategic thinking. It just, when people see the game plan that I've come up with, like, hey, this is the right people for this. We just put this person in line, and this person can do this, and they're great at it. And this is the plan that we're gonna move forward for the next year. People are like so hyped on it. They're like, dude, we are gonna like kill it. You know what I mean?
Kill it.
Like, and it's amazing to see like that. All of a sudden, my energy and drive has been infectious to you, and
Right.
you're like, yeah, we are gonna kill
Yeah.
it, right? And
So what are those factors then that made that teamwork, that energy that you're talking about?
Yeah.
If you were to break down the factors,
the ability to know people's skill traits and their ability, that you can take their abilities and use it in your own whatever you're working
Yeah.
on, and maximize their workload in a sense. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
so
good.
if
That's
you can
good.
figure out what I'm the best at, and you put me
Right.
to that scenario, that's going to be the defining factor to making that school bus, you know, move hard and
so
fast.
what's your specific role? What's Scott's specific role that makes teamwork and that makes that energy possible? What is it that you bring to the table that causes that to happen?
I think it's just the compilation of bringing the right individuals together. And then the whole plan itself is like innovation. So when I come out to do a new project with somebody, or I'm creating a new project,
Right.
when I'm starting to bring these right individuals in together, every time I add a new person or a component, it's just more synergy.
That's good.
And then when that synergy
That's
starts building
good.
up, then you got the wheels that you need to turn and move.
Right.
And once that thing just drops and it actually moves, you're just like a rocket out of
That's
here.
powerful.
You know?
Yeah, that's powerful, dude. That's
Which
awesome, man.
always goes back to, you know, the same as, you know, I spend so much time picking the partners.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same kind of case.
Absolutely.
A lot of the things that I say, you can kind of relapse into my theories, my thought processes, and all the questions and answers I've done. They all kind of circle the same kind
Yeah.
of theories over and over. It's because that's what I believe works, and it does work for
Being
me.
strategic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's definitely one of your core skill sets is before you take action, it seems like you really look at something
Yeah.
and you strategize on
Yeah.
it. That's powerful. So the next theme is on social impact.
Yeah.
And when I wrote is that social media gives us the opportunity to impact people through videos, sounds, images, words. It's an effective and inexpensive method for marketing a brand. It allows us to communicate with customers instantly.
Yeah.
So I see what you're doing. I want the listeners to hear, like, what is it that you do on social media that causes people to follow, engage, and be an advocate for your brand?
I've reviewed this myself sometimes, and I took like a big different spin even on social media a couple times. And I believe that, you know, being authentic and genuine is like number one. And when you open yourself up to people like that, like it's not just a mask, people really kind of attach on and they believe that, you know, like, this guy's so authentic. What he's saying, what he's doing is real.
Yeah.
And when people can start poking holes into like, oh, what you're doing is like, oh, that's not real. Like, there's no way. Then it just becomes like, what is this? Like a show? You know, it's just a TV show. You know, you can turn it off anytime.
Trying to do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what you get. That's what I get the feeling of, is that this thing is trying to get me to do something.
Yeah.
It's not trying to serve me necessarily. It's trying to get me to do something.
Yeah, like this podcast is not selling.
No,
we're not selling anything,
We
guys.
have nothing to sell.
You know what I mean?
Besides the ability that you can do whatever you want if you develop the right skill sets.
Exactly.
Like, if there's anything that I'm trying to sell people on, it's to overcome the make-believe story that you're not good enough.
Exactly.
And that when you figure out what your purpose is, when you figure out what your gift is, and you tap into that and you relentlessly pursue whatever that thing is, you have the life of your dreams. Like, that's what I'm trying to sell you, kids.
Yeah, it's a difference.
Ice cream,
and that's why
and ice cream.
And ice cream.
And we might sell you a muffler.
Every once in a while I'll try to sell you ice cream, but that's okay. Everybody eats sweets.
So how about a story of when you reached a turning point where your social media was like, oh, damn, something just happened, where it went through the roof?
You know what's weird about social media is like, there is a science to social media.
Sure.
And when you can kind of tap into it, because I'm a very logical person and there are theories and orientations, that when you can kind of tap into certain things, you feel like, wow, like I really got the key to this right now.
Yeah.
And you know what's Instagram, for example, it's ever evolving. It's always changing. So if you don't stay on top of it, if you don't understand the theories behind it,
you took a break for how many months?
8-month break.
Wow.
To kind of enjoy life.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, it was amazing. You know what I mean? When you step back and want to watch people do social media,
so no logging on, no nothing?
You know, I was very like absent, straight up absent, you know? And I took that break.
Sometime.
It's amazing.
Maybe I'll do 8 days.
No, most of the time, based on, you know, the theories of social media, if you disappear for that long, when you come back, you're not as impactful anymore.
Sure.
You know, but when I came back, I really thought about who I was as a person, where I am at. Obviously, I had my daughter at the time. I was a different person at that time. And I felt like I couldn't even go in the same direction for my social media. So I went a different direction, you know, a more impactful direction. And when I was sitting there reviewing myself, I've done a lot in my life. I've accomplished a lot. And the main thing that kept on sticking out to me was that when I was younger, I had no mentor. I had no mentorship. I had no research ability to look for anything. And I wanted to provide that content, but in a different way. That's why I was willing to do this kind of, you know, more podcasts, more interviews, and really let people reach into my mind and use it as a tool for them to kind of move forward in their life and kind of figure out a lot of things. I'm not telling you how to do anything. I'm not telling you how to buy, what to buy. Yeah. I'm telling you, these are tools I've used. Maybe you could use those too in your life and figure out things. So why
do you want to impact people in that way on social media?
I think about the boy that had a dream. Yeah. And that boy wanted everything, but couldn't get it because it was just like there was not enough books in this sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's kind of why I look at that boy and I'm like, hey, if you even had what I was doing right now for these whoever's in the game right now, you would be so much better off. You know what I mean? You'd feel empowered. And that's why I want to empower younger individuals to be like, I can do this. Like, this guy did it. Right. Or I can do this. Like, that totally works in my circumstance. You know what I mean? And I want them to sit there and actually think about what they're doing and using these new tools and traits that nobody's taught them that. Nobody's telling them this in school. And really reevaluate what they're doing and then project a new plan all of a sudden that's so much more better than it was before.
Why do you want to do that?
It's just it's kind of like one of those things that I want to do for myself, because I feel like if I don't do something like this, I almost gave up on that boy that was younger. You know what I mean? It's really it's for me and it's for other individuals, essentially.
That's cool, man. Well, that boy, that girl out there, if they're paying attention They just got one hell of an education. You are
I
hooking
hope
kids
so.
up, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
No.
So, last 2 questions. What 3 wishes do you have that you feel would add more vitality to your business or your personal life? If you had 3 wishes, right? My kids always ask me, like, what Marvel superhero would I be? But what is it for you?
Time, man. Time. I wish I had more time. I wish I could stop time almost, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
The ability not to sleep, because I could literally double my production.
Gosh, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, I could double my time of working and doing whatever I want to do, you know? Yeah, I don't know. It just keeps on rounding about to, for me, it's over and over. It's just all about time for me now.
Yeah.
Like where I allocate my time, what do I spend my time on? And I wish there was just a simpler way to, obviously, stopping time would be great.
Let me ask you this question. This wasn't one of my questions before, but I just thought about it right now because we're in this theme of work where it's like work.
Yeah.
Do you think that looking back, because I play the intention game a lot, do you think looking back you had to work as many hours as you did, right? And maybe sacrifice some of the time with the misses or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think you could go back and work less hours but do more intentional work and achieve the same result?
I think I could have done everything I did in the past in a much shorter time span. Like I said, that's why I always go back to the boy that had the dream, which was, you know, me sitting there wondering, like, how can I do this more efficiently? But I don't know how. I don't have the tools.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, yes, like, I believe that I could have done it all much better.
Yeah.
And I could have been twice as successful if I was starting out in this generation than the past. You know what I mean?
And I asked that question honestly because I consistently encourage people to look at the 7 equities, which is mind, body, soul, family, friends, business, money.
Yeah.
And over the last year in my own life, I've lowered my amount of work hours.
Yeah.
I used to work till it got dark, basically,
Yeah.
because I'd be out hustling.
Yeah.
And it then became 6, and now it's become even less and less
Yeah.
and less. But my business is going more and more because I'm realizing to be super effective with the time that I have. And I always say, you know, if you give yourself all day long to do something, it's going to take all day long to get it done.
Yeah.
But I'm always trying to encourage people to pay attention to the other areas of their life that give them life, health, quiet time, family time, they're real hobbies. Because I think it causes people to show up to work when your cup's already overflowing because your wife and kids or hobbies or whatever. You show up to the game and it's on.
It is totally true, man. That's the same reason why I took that 8-month break
That's powerful.
from social media
Yeah.
even. And, you know, back then, I don't know, if I had these tools, I would have compressed all the things I had to do in such a smaller time.
Yep.
And I would have more time for myself, even though every few years, I end up kind of giving myself a list of things I need to do, obviously. And there was even a year, like, you know what, like, you know, that I put on that, you know, that college 10, 20, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And even then I had to reflect to myself, like, hey, put the workout on hold right now. I need to figure out this situation right here, you know what I mean? And I went through the fitness journey.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing journey, and I learned a lot. And I have that under my belt, and I can always talk about, feel it.
That's
and
awesome.
It gets me connected to fitness people now, too.
Yeah.
So it always works out in the sense of it always can turn into something that I can use in my later life.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
That's really good. So lastly, and you talked about this several times throughout this interview, is aligning with people and choosing the right partners and being strategic with the people you put around yourself. Yeah. So what does Scott look for in other people? What do you look for when you're aligning with somebody else?
Respect level. If they know what they're good at, I know what I'm good at. That's number 1. 2 is like egos put aside. Everybody's successful here already.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. Like there is no push or shove.
Whether you're the janitor or the tech guy or whatever.
Yeah. If you're the best cleaner in the world, janitor guy, come on in. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to say nothing to you. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Because you know that their specialty is what they thrive on.
That's
so
good.
Don't touch it. Don't move it. Don't try to step on it.
Right.
That's all good. And, you know, for me, like, choosing partners like getting into marriage nowadays. Everybody says this stuff and stuff. But after going through like good partnerships and bad partnerships, I feel like it really is like you are dedicating a part of your life to this individual.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And if you guys don't make it work, it could be kind of bad in the sense of like your work life. It strings along. It does everything that a regular relationship would do to you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I spend 10 times more time figuring out, working out with the right people. And you know what? I talk about all the negative, But when you do find the right partners and the right people to work with, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a symphony almost.
It's magic, dude.
Your mind is my mind.
Yep.
You work together. We have twice the brain power, you know, or we have 4 times the brain power.
Right.
And then I've met people recently in the last couple of years that have been like so empowering in a sense where
Right.
I'm like, wow, like I even want to be you. You know what I mean? In a sense of like your knowledge base
Yeah.
is like, I need that. Like I'm almost like I crave
Right.
knowledge now, or addiction
Yeah,
to it. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like even in the real estate world, you do certain things that I'm like, oh, like wow, like I want to learn more about that world. You know what I mean?
That was a big thing for me of starting this podcast is because I feed off of hanging out with legendary people.
Yeah.
You know, I learn, and then I want other people to be able to experience that same thing.
It's almost like, you know, whoever's watching this or reading this or whatever the case is, they're with us right
They
now.
absolutely are.
And we're chopping it up.
Yeah. If you're listening into this, then it's for a specific reason. Something that, you know, I'm going to say, something that, you know, you're going to say, and we're chilling, we're vibing.
And one of the biggest questions I always get is like, oh, how do I get into these inner circles and stuff like that?
Yeah.
You literally are in the circle with us
You're
right
in it.
now. This is, if me and him were just to hang out, this is what we'd be talking about.
Without
it's
a doubt.
the same deal. That's
I
what I'm saying.
ask
It's so
people
crazy.
all the time. I had a dude from Utah or something.
Yeah.
He said, hey, how do I get into your coaching program?
Yeah.
And I said, you're in it.
Yeah.
Like, you're in my coaching program.
Yeah.
Back in the day, in order to have a real estate coach, you got to pay these guys about $1,000 a month. And what are they going to do? They're going to talk to you for 30 minutes a week.
Yeah.
I'm talking to real estate agents around the world for 10 hours a week for free.
Yeah.
So you are in the coaching program. You're in the
Yeah.
Kevin Scott program right now, guys.
Learn.
Take
notes.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much for doing this. I'm inspired. I'm going to go start 15 businesses right now.
No, dude. Start one good
I'm
one
gonna stick
first.
to my game. I'm gonna stick to
Yeah.
case and project mindset. So, any last words, dudes? Anybody you want to shout out? Also, I forgot to ask, what's next? What are you doing next, man?
Man, my family is number one.
Yeah.
That's bar none. So I want to spend more time with them. So I'm trying to put myself in a position where I can spend more time with them.
That's
which
cool.
Is, you know, logical thinking and strategic playing on
Yeah.
my lifestyle. And then, you know, like the beauty, the fitness, and
That's
the tech
cool.
space. These are all new spaces that I want to go in and I'm going to learn. But guess who I'm learning from? My partners.
Right. That's
you see
it.
what I'm saying? Like this
Yeah.
is all like, you know,
So I got to
do what
ask
I
you this
preach.
question then.
Yeah.
This is important.
Yeah.
You say spending more time with your family, but at the same time, we have bigger business goals.
Yeah.
So how are you going to spend more time with your family?
Yeah.
Right? What's your secret? What's your strategic plan
Yeah.
so that you're spending time with the little one and the lady?
Yeah. So for me, what ends up working is when the baby and the mommy are sleeping.
Yeah.
I go to work.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my magic ability.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And thank you, Chinese production, for keeping me up from like, you know,
Yeah.
6 p.m. to
That's
like
cool.
4 a.m. But then that's where I allocate a lot of my work.
Right.
And then the work day, I'll have like in and out a little bit. But then that gave me the ability to actually stay at home for, you know, whatever, 6 to 8 months
Yeah.
and actually spend so much time with them. Like
That's cool.
People don't have that, you know, generosity or ability to do those things. And then I continue to be there available because I can, if my family ever need anything, I will flip the switch to spend time with them.
Well, part of your strategy that I've learned in this last hour is that you focus and you prioritize.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, how is Scott going to spend more time with his family? Well, it's easy. It's
Yeah.
his priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just switch focus, the multitasking.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say? Any other advice that you want to share? Insight? Any last words? People you want to shout out? How do people reach you?
They reach me on my Instagram, Scott Afters, my real last name.
That's it. Mr. Afters.
Yeah, Mr. Afters. And you know what? I'm just here right now. I'm going on like a more like entrepreneurial spirit on my page, but I think I like the feedback. It helps people more than you know, all the food journey that I've done in the past, which is
sure.
great. I still love food. It's just as a family man, I don't get to go out eat as much anymore.
Right.
But I still enjoy it. So now my lifestyle is reflecting on my page essentially.
That's cool.
And
And
I'd
you're
love
on-
for
you're on a
everybody
search.
to be people come join it, you know, leave when you need to and come
That's
and
it.
learn when you want to.
That's it.
Yeah.
Dope, dude. Well, thank you very much for being here. This is episode 4. I think
Yeah.
we did it, guys. We are
Yeah.
out. Tune in, follow Scott,
Yeah.
share this, post it,
Yeah.
and thank you for listening. I think
Yeah.
we did it.
Thanks guys.
Yeah. Thanks, homie.
Yeah.
Say that you don't like them, but I see you all the time. Peeps you say that you don't like them, but I